have... Oh, I just hit the back. I rolled way too far back. Listen, I only have about a 2-foot gap between desk and that back there. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope that you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful afternoon. For myself, it's the afternoon. For you guys, it's probably the morning. Well, I know it's the morning because it's Long Song Saturday, but you may be looking at another time. Anyways, today we are listening to Cat Stevens. We're taking the first track off of the album Foreigner, which is the Foreigner Suite. So many of you had recommended me listening to this particular specific. It happens a lot. I put my words together. This specific track from the album, ever since we had listened to T for the Tillerman. And yeah, we're finally going to go ahead and take it on today. Some of the people that had recommended this track were Rory JP, which has JP in your name, so. Porgy T, Bob Holtzman, Benoit Desmarais, Greg Jones, I believe I see you there as well. Morad, I think that you recommended that. I see Yatta Bay, which is kind of fun to say. And then the list just goes on and on and on. Bob Holtzman again, Bruins 56. Anyways, I'm excited to go ahead and take on this 18-minute track here. I'm curious just to see, with a track this long, as with anyone else, how it develops, what's new about it, what's old about it. Now, with this specific album, in his discography, let me see when this came out. So I know the year, but when did this come out, like, in relation to T for the Tillerman? So T came out in 1970. This came out 3 years later. Okay, so that's where we're at least historically. So let's go ahead and give it a listen. We'll talk about it after. It'll probably be blocked. I can pretty much guarantee you that this will be blocked because pretty much all of T for the Tillerman was also blocked. So, just as an FYI. Let's go ahead and get into it.
No words.
Let me start that over because it sounded like it started a little bit. Hold on.
There are no words
There you go.
I can use. Come on now, freedom calling.
Isn't that Melody? Sounds like it to me. Didn't that feel like extremely good to listen to? Maybe you hated that. That's fine. I thought that sounded wonderful. It was worth the 18 minutes. To me, it actually sounded like just several songs put together into one 18-minute suite, which makes sense since it's a suite, so it's supposed to be broken up into different parts. But you could clearly distinguish each of the sections here in the music. But they all flowed incredibly well from one idea to the next, from one theme to the next. The piano playing from Stevens is, to me, impeccable. There's moments where it's really fun. Actually, most of the track, the piano is just bouncing around, just lightly floating around in the music, just putting down those chords. Like at the very end. Dun, 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 da, 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 da. Something like that. The melody was something like that. And like it's just so fun and happy and light. And I like the joy that it brings into the music. But then at other times, few times, it gets a little bit more serious, a little darker, to give you something else, put a little more depth into the music. All of the musicians playing around Cat Stevens were incredible. I love the drumming in here. Just tight, precise, perfectly powerful drumming. Like, it wasn't flashy at all, right? But then you had some moments, like near the end, where in that repeated section, in that outro, you had those tight fills in that one moment that goes ba 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 ticka ticka bucket bucket ticka ticka bucket ticka ba ba da 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 da. And then it just pops right back into it. Like, that was just such tight drumming. The bass work accents all of the melody in here. The bass being played by Paul Martinez. Drums, okay, so hear me out. There's two drummers on this album. One is Gary or Jerry Conway, who is also handling percussion on this particular track. But you do have another drummer here on the album, Bernard Purdie. Now, I don't know who is drumming on this particular track. It does say percussion is credited to Jerry Conway on this one, which makes me assume that Bernard Purdy is playing here. Well, that explains why it's tight. That explains that immediately. That was fantastic to listen to. Then you had some horns that showed up, just taking these I almost said groovalicious, just taking these fun up-tempo melodies and adding a certain grandeur and majesty to them, as I always mention, like it's like a golden rise, just like pushing them up even further. But the strings do not at all go overboard in the music, nor do they take over or take away from the heart of the music. And then I want to say, because you did hear some clear keyboard work of other sorts besides piano, I want to say I heard some Mellotron in there. I see that there are string arrangements on this album, and I do want to say near the end I heard clear strings, but I do also want to say that there's Mellotron, even though it's not listed there. But sometimes hearing real strings and then Mellotron, sometimes, get in there. But I'm pretty sure. Now, if I'm being 100% honest with you, when we first started listening to the track, I was a little, I don't want to say taken aback, but I was a little caught off guard because for some reason, Steven's voice just wasn't hitting me. And I can't explain exactly what it was, but I did mention during the song that his vocal stylings, especially in the beginning, kind of reminded me a little bit of Ian Anderson for some reason. And I was trying to figure out why, and I think that's because, like, Ian Anderson, when he sings generally with Jethro Tull, if you kind of take the wild man image into it, he kind of sings without any sort of, there's nothing stopping him or blocking him. He's not trying to be the most precise, pristine, and polished singer. He's just kind of like going with it. There's a style of rambling in his singing, and just uncare, a lack of care. But that is what the character is. That's what makes it memorable. That's what makes it special and so unique and fun to listen to. And in the beginning of the track, I was actually getting a similar delivery from Stevens, and I enjoyed it in one way. I should say I appreciated it in one way, but at the same time, it wasn't quite reaching me. However, as the track went on, I definitely got into it. I definitely enjoyed his voice, what he was singing, how he was singing, and it definitely kind of came full circle to me. So sometimes with longer tracks, I mean, especially on a first listen, just being real, it takes a while. I may not always get it right away. I may not always like it right away. But it definitely did get stronger for me, especially as it went towards the end. Let me back up a little bit. I can't play much of it in repetition because it just makes the editing process harder. But I really like the halfway point. This here. Listen up. That's almost like not disco. That's not what I'm saying. But there's like a, like you would hear that kind of sound. This is gonna sound so weird in like blaxploitation movies, like that. What would that be considered? I don't want to say that's soul or funk because it's not exactly. I guess you could say it's close to funk, but like a sound like that. Besides the lead synth on that top of that, like the rhythm section, I just can't think of like what it'd be like. You would, I know it's like a more modern take, but like it'd be on like Undercover Brother or like one of those movies. Like I don't know, but I like that idea and that rhythm that's incorporated into the music, especially in a fun section like that. And then, like I said before, during the outro of the track, I love the outro. I love when a band is building up to this, right? And especially what you hear in progressive music and music with longer run times. You build up to that moment. You build up to that crest. And then if your melody is good enough at the end of that climax, you let that repeat. I like a good fade out. That's no problem with me. So Cat did the exact same thing here. We built up to that really, really solid melody, and then we just continued on with that, rolled the tape reel to reel, and let that run us out into the end. And I just think that that's a solid ending. Right? And the way that he goes off in the end too, just from what I can see, kind of declaring his love basically, and wanting to be with this person. I think I didn't really follow the lyrics that much, but regardless, it works so well in kind of taking us off the deep end and into that pool of romantic thought. This was a really, really great track to listen to. I would definitely like to listen to it again, especially the beginning part where I was a little like off. But it's also for me, like doing a reaction channel, right? Like I know that I'm doing a YouTube channel and like I'm doing the video, but I'm just a guy sitting here listening to music, and I always give an honest opinion. It's just my initial reaction. And sometimes my initial reaction is, I don't know if I like this or not, or I don't really care for this at the moment. but it's kind of like getting into a pool. When you put your toe in, the toe feels fine, but once you get ankle, knee, calf, you're like, it's a bit cold. I don't know if I can acclimate myself to this. But then you let yourself get in, get used to it, and typically, definitely by like the halfway mark, you're like, okay, I'm getting it. So the first parts are always like hardest for me to get into because I'm still kind of adjusting into the music. But this was really, really fun to listen to. Wonderful stuff. Now, before I actually look at the lyrics, I'm just looking at the title of the track, Foreigner Suite or Suit, and it makes me think of, being an alien, being a foreigner, perhaps in another land. So, is this symbolic? Seems like it is, just by the ending. There are no words I can use because the meaning still leaves for you to choose. I like that. There's nothing I can say because the meaning of whatever I would say is still decided by you. That's a great opening line. And I couldn't stand to let them be abused by you. He says, you're just going to take my words and twist them. That's what he's basically getting down to. Dreams I had just last night made me scared, white with fright. But I'm over to the sunny side road, over to that sunny side road. Fortunes come and fortunes go, but things get better, babe. That's one thing I know. And I'm over to that sunny side road. So he says even things are going to get better, and I am on that road. I am on the sunny side road. I'm going to reach that happiness. I'm on the way there already, whether you're there or not. And I guess you could, if this continues on with like a journey theme, that could be, of course, being a foreigner in a different land, but also a foreigner in a different state of mind. Over to that sunny side road. I have a friend that I have met who gives me love and a certain respect. Just a little respect. Everybody needs just a little respect. Hey, you just need a little respect. And in a little while, our love will spread to you. Ain't no matter who inside this world you know, there'll be someone who will love you just for who you are. He's speaking truth. That's all he says. Someone somewhere in this world will love you for just who you are. He even says, dreams I had just last night made me worry to face up to the light, but I'm over on that sunny side of road. So he does have thoughts, memories, dreams that perhaps like haunt him in a sense of what the other side was. But when he wakes up, he resolutes himself. He continues with resolve to travel on that sunny side road. Come on now, it's freedom calling, and find yourself. Come on in and remind yourself. You can live in the largest house and 11 apartments too. Run your own private airplane and a boat to Malibu. But till you know deep down what inside you really need, well, I love you, baby. Oh, my dear, and I think about you sometimes. But when you're with me, boy, it chokes my mind. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. When you're with me, it chokes my mind. This could be in a good way, like, I'm so in love with you that I still get nervous around you. Or it could be in a bad way, like, when you're with me, you choke me. Like, you're stifling me and who I am and what I'm trying to do. Hence his call for freedom. I'm not going to go over every single lyric, by the way. Won't you give me your word that you won't laugh, because you've been a saving grace to me, and I'd hate to face a day without you around. My life would be without sound. Love, this is a really good line that I picked up during the track. Love must have made you on a Sunday, because you taste as good to me as God made honey. That's a good line. That's a really good line. There are no words I can use because the meaning still leaves you to choose, which is what he said in the very beginning. The moment you walked inside my door, I knew that I need not look no more. I've seen many girls, other girls before, but darling, heaven must have programmed you. And then he asked near the end, continuously, will you, will you, will you? Will you what? The only thing I can think of when it comes to love, romance, and someone saying, will you, I think of the words afterwards, will you marry me? Maybe. Could be. Could not be. And like I said, I think that this idea of being a romantic foreigner, perhaps, in a different state of mind, I think that's kind of what I'm getting out of this. This was a really, really good track. I enjoyed that a lot. Like I said, it's not always an 18-minute track by an artist, especially that, as far as I know, doesn't typically do long songs like that. Is kind of a treat. So it's cool to see like what they're going to do within that space. And I think that he made great use of that a lot of time because it sounded nice. So please let me know your thoughts though. Thank you guys for the recommendation on listening to this track as well. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please let me know those thoughts in the comments down below. See, I froze too. I choked up. When you get around me, I choke. You can also follow me and support my channel and what I do on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. But otherwise, I hope that you enjoyed the music. Thank you as always for being here, and I will see you all later. Bye, guys.